All right, folks, welcome to the second podcast of Life, Liberty, Happiness. I'm here along with Woody.
Hello.
And the first segment here, we'll go over sort of last week's show. Woody and I were excited to do our first show, and Woody has a little bit of news. I was hoping to have at least two people listening. How many ended up listening, Woody?
As of today, we had about 150 downloads on our first episode, which is like 148 more than what we thought.
You're good at math, too.
That's right.
So, no, that's great.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure how it was going to work. I did get a lot of positive feedback, which I'm happy about. People said they like the content, like everything. Obviously, the longer the show goes on, we'll be a little more advanced with live and
that's right.
Things like that. But right now, we don't have a selected time, because I think that was the other question was, what time do we listen?
Yeah, and I think that what we may do is, like, we're testing the video out today.
Okay.
We may even set a time, record it, and do a live video portion to that. But ideally, when we do an episode, if you see us post, it'll probably go live within 12 to 24 hours at the most. Sure. We'll try to get it out there as quick as possible. Okay. But yeah.
All right. Well, that's just a little update of last week's show. We did get a lot of positive feedback, which we were wanting for. We want as many people as we can get to email the show. Woody, you want to give out email addresses and all that stuff so people can contact us?
Yes, sir. All right, it's lifelibertyhappinesspodcast@gmail.com. That's a dedicated email account. You can email whatever you want to, like Brian was saying, comments, feedback, everything. Or you can go to the website, lifeliberty.us, and that is .us because it's United States. That's the only one I could find. So
it works.
And we have a Facebook page as well. So we're trying to get everything, give people plenty of options to comment and leave feedback.
Perfect. All right. So that wraps up that segment. We'll get into what's happening. So basically, this segment will kind of go over, it's our topic segment where we talk about things that are happening in town. First and foremost, I want to wish our mayor a happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Mr. Rush. I saw a picture of him today with a smile on his face, and I told him that I thought it was a myth that he had smiled, and we now have proof that he can smile.
He does actually smile.
So that is great. I also want to take the time to say hi to my nephew, who was in the United States Marine Corps. Dylan is stationed at, I'm going to mess this up, Camp Lejeune, I think.
Okay, yeah.
So he's finished his boot camp, and now he's in training. But he texted me that he had listened. Yeah. And so I thought, that's pretty cool.
That's awesome. And thank you for your service, Dylan. Appreciate it.
And I just thought now would be a good time to thank all the men and women for the service. Because of that, we get to do stuff like this. Yep. So now, getting into our first, I'm not going to say controversial, but I will say
hot topic.
It is a hot topic. For ages, people have come to Bedford for the Elks Home lights.
Yes.
There's a little bit of an issue with that now. It's no longer, it's still considered the Elks Home, but it's owned by someone else. I don't think the interest is there that it used to be, where the people who lived there would do the setup and the takedown and things like that. That's not there anymore. So this year we've kind of piecemealed the town helping, which really has turned into a lot of the town helping. Going forward, one or two things are going to have to happen. Either the community is going to have to step up, somebody needs to contact the town manager or someone and say, hey, I got a group of people that'll take this on, or they're going to go away. It's that simple.
That's simple. Well, it's like you talked about last episode, it's about community involvement and seeking feedback from the community, like about the town council meetings and stuff like that. You want the community involved. Yeah. And this is one of those things. Like, if you were not involved, it will go away. There's no question.
Yes. So, that's out there. Again, if you've got any questions, you can email or call the town manager. But basically, all he's going to do is get you in touch with the proper people that you can help and put a group together that can keep it. Yeah. If that's the way the community wants to go.
So. It's like one of those things, like I remember growing up and we would go back then all the way to Bedford, to see. And like we were all in the back of a truck, my grandfather's truck. We'd come through, see the lights, and it's like a historic thing for us. So sure. I hope it does stay. I hope people rally around it.
All right, second thing. I may step on a few toes here, but it's the Christmas parade. For those who don't know, the Christmas parade has been moved to Liberty Lake Park. I can't give you a reason why, and that's kind of why I wanted to talk about this. Is I have had some merchants call me. I've actually had people from out of town call me and say, "Hey, why are we moving the parade?" I had first and foremost had to tell them that the town does not put on the parade, so therefore we had no say-so in it. But those who are in charge, maybe by next week I can get some feedback on that to try to get that out, and maybe we can either move it back, or if it's going to be at the park, maybe give some reasons of why it's at the park so that people can understand why it was moved and that it's not a permanent move. Whatever.
Just a COVID move, hopefully. I like Liberty Lake Park, but there's something about Centertown, downtown, like the shops, having stuff down there. There's just that is something special about it.
Yeah, and I think it's a possibility that it would still work. I mean, we had a graduation parade there, so anyway, I'm sure I asked for feedback. I'm sure I'll get blown up over that one, and that's okay.
That's all right. That's what it's there for.
We're here for is to get communication out. So, next thing is economic news. I did want to take the time to wish Shanae Welsh and Something Else Boutique.
Absolutely,
congratulations. She's expanding. She's opening up another location at River Ridge Mall.
Good for her.
Phenomenal.
And in a time like this, like she pivoted her business at the beginning of COVID.
Yeah.
Did some online stuff, had some success, and she is just thriving. So that's nice. That Town of Bedford, small business, like expanding. That's awesome for her.
Yeah, and I did reach out to a few people. I have not spoken to her, but I was ensured that this was not a move from Bedford.
No.
Bedford is her home.
Yeah, another location.
Yeah, and so that's a good thing, and we wish her all the success. Last but not least, for the What's Happening segment is school superintendent. I got a phone call the other day. I did an interview. The Bedford County Public Schools will be hiring a new school superintendent. And so they're asking for parents, people in the community to go on and fill out a survey. They can do that at bedford.sharpschool.net. And if you scroll down a little bit, you'll see where it asks for a survey. Go on and fill that out. Make sure you do that. I think that'll help them out a lot in going forward to pick a new superintendent.
That's good. Yeah, that's good. They're seeking community involvement too.
Yeah, so. And then here again, if you don't fill out the survey,
don't have an opinion after. Hate to say it, if you didn't have enough time to fill out the survey, a simple survey, then
That's right. So, all right. With that being said, that wraps up our What's Happening, and now we will get into our guest. So, for those of you who don't know, our guest for today is Carter Garrett. Carter, welcome.
Thank you, Brian. Woody.
Thank you.
I will say, I've had some people ask, I wonder why you chose Carter first. And that's an easy answer for me. When I first moved to Bedford, my wife is involved in the court system, so she had invited me to a bar party. I think that was the first place I met you. And then at the, what's it called? The Kentucky Derby party was another place.
Over at Avenue.
Yeah, and I'm a huge fan of storytellers. My grandfather was a storyteller, and it's not something that you teach at school.
Yeah,
that's something you grow up doing, telling stories.
It's an art,
and you tell stories so well. So I thought this would be a perfect guest to have on. One, we can learn a little bit about your background. Two, just get to know more about Bedford, and that's what this show's all about. So, first of all,
let me interrupt you.
Sure.
I want to make some comments about your opening segment.
Oh, good.
Yes.
Now, Mary Kay, of course, worked in the courthouse for years and years, so I worked with her, and her husband, Danny, is my cousin. So we're kind of keeping this in the family so far on the first two segments.
Yeah.
All right. Second of all, with the Elks Home Christmas lights.
Mm-hmm.
my brothers and I used to deliver newspapers over at the Elks Home when we were kids, and it was the best route in Bedford because it was about 90% indoors. And it was always so stinking hot that you'd have to wear your coat in wintertime and then ditch it to go and deliver all the papers.
Oh, wow.
But the one thing, and I don't know, I think the statute of limitations is run on this, but because we would be over there every morning, we figured out how to cut the lights on in the middle of the night. And so we would go over there, hit the lights, get them all flashing up, and then we would try and drive up to the fire tower right there on Reservoir Hill and see if we could get to the fire tower in time before they got the light shut back off.
That's great. Well,
And then as far as Centerfest, the wife and I, Heather and I, went to Centerfest the other day. I saw you there, as a matter of fact. But before we went there, we went down to People's and bought a couch from Brian and Kim down there. So we were trying to support what is usually some good traffic through there. So we went and bought a couch and then went and had lunch out at Liberty Lake.
well, that's awesome.
Good.
That's awesome. Yeah. So, all right. That's why we had you on for that information right there. So, one of the questions that I had was, I've heard a little bit about the history of your law firm, which is Garrett and Garrett, right?
Right.
So, Harry was your father, correct? Now, did Harry start the firm?
Garrett and Garrett was started by Harry and I both.
Oh, okay.
June 1st, 1992.
Gotcha.
But we draw our history through a lot of Bedford characters. We've had 2 Supreme Court justices, Virginia Supreme Court, not U.S. Supreme Court. They were both Burkes. It was Elwood Callahill Burkes and Martin Parks Burkes. And if you look at Judge Updike, where he sits in the courtroom, one of the Burkes is right behind him in the center. The other one is to his right, and then John Good is to his left.
Okay.
And so the chair that I sit in was the Burkes brothers' chair. Wow. It's over 100 years old. It's been passed down from lawyer to lawyer to lawyer.
Wow.
My dad came to Bedford in 1961, and he went to work for a man named John Oliver. Well, John had the chair at that time. Okay. And when John died, only, I think it's 62 or 63, not very long after my dad came, then my dad inherited the chair. And then when my dad retired, he passed the chair on to me, and I took it to a woodworker out on the south side, and he reconditioned it for me. And so now that's what I sit in every day at my desk.
Well, I'll be darned. That is great.
That's awesome.
So, I've just talked to people. Was Judge Updike part of your firm?
No, Judge Updike has always worked in the courthouse.
Okay.
My dad was Commonwealth attorney from 1968 to 1980.
Okay.
And he hired Jim out of William and Mary Law School and gave him his first job.
Okay.
So he was my dad's assistant prosecutor. And then when my dad retired, that's when Jim ran for and was elected Commonwealth attorney before he went on the bench later on.
That is amazing. So that's the kind of stuff that just, when we talk about the small town, and that just kind of showcases it right there. So growing up, your dad's an attorney, your brother.
Right, my baby brother's an attorney.
Your baby brother's an attorney. So was there ever?
And then my older brother was a bartender for a while, and my middle brother, he's a beer salesman. And so I told everybody, and anybody that knew my dad knew that he enjoyed a drink. I told him we all followed in his footsteps, liquor or law.
That's great. So, but I mean, was there ever a thought that you wouldn't be an attorney?
Nah, people been asking me for advice, legal or otherwise, since I was probably in 4th grade.
Now, is that in 4th grade wise? Is that a good way?
I don't know, but that was the trajectory I was on, and there was no getting off.
I gotcha. All right, so you chose UVA to be your choice. Was that your only choice?
what was my first choice.
Okay.
It was back in the mid-'70s. Zach Black. He got a group of us kids together, and I can't remember if it was Scout kids or church kids, but we took the Bedford Baptist bus, and we went to a football game in Charlottesville. And North Carolina whipped the snot out of at UVA. But the place was so neat. They had the old trough urinals like they have at Martinsville Speedway. And so we're sitting in traffic after the game trying to leave, and all the students just caught my attention because they were all wearing ties and coats, the men were, and the women were all wearing dresses and looked really nice. And every one of them was so hammered drunk that they were stumbling along. And that's when I decided that was the place that I would fit in all right.
That was a match made in heaven.
That's it. This is the place for me.
That's awesome. Well, that's great.
But as far as backup plans, I know you got that on there. And I did apply to like Hampton, Sydney, Elon, WNL, got into all those schools, and they were recruiting me for football on those. And so I got to meet Stokely Fulton and Lou Wacker and a couple of the old time D3 coaches.
Really darn. Now that's something I'd heard stories of athletics, but I did not know that.
But once I got into UVA, that was the end of my athletic career. I was moving over to new endeavors, shall we say.
Yeah. So that kind of leads me into my next question. Is there something about you that maybe people around here don't know that kind of would be something that they would be like, oh, I had no idea?
Well, everything is a good segue in this second because I told you I brought some props.
Yeah.
And one of them is where I won the trophy for being the most valuable player in the All-Star game in 1978.
Nice.
So this was
This was Little League football. Little League football was big back then.
Oh yeah.
And a lady, Skip Goodman's, and Skip was everybody loved Skip, but he was in an industrial accident and got killed back in the early 80s. Mm-hmm. But his mama stopped by my office the other day and brought me a clipping.
Oh, look at that.
Woody, read what that clipping says.
Carter Garrett scores 1 of 2 touchdowns in Shrine game.
What?
Look at that.
It hadn't been 2 weeks ago she brought me that.
Look at that.
I'll be darned. That is
Yeah,
so did you
a
go?
local legend right here.
Yeah, I scored 2 touchdowns, a 2-point conversion, had an interception, and 6 tackles.
Damn.
That's pretty good. So, did you go on to play high school football?
Oh, yeah.
So at Liberty.
At Liberty.
Okay.
2-year starter.
All right. Now, what year would that be? I'm trying to think of.
Graduated, so 82 would have been my final football season. I graduated in 83.
So the coach would have been
John Walker.
Okay.
Yeah, John Walker was my coach all the way through, and now I do John's legal work for him.
Well, there you go. Oh, me.
He behaves pretty well. It's more of real estate and stuff like that.
So my last question, and we'll definitely have you back on in the future.
Wait a second. I don't know if y'all are going to get the video working or not while my props are down here. So, Woody, can you describe this and how
It's, yes, for those of you who are listening right now, this trophy is massive. It is taller than all the microphones on the table.
Yep.
And it's gorgeous. Look at it. Look at the red right here. Let's see. Shrine Bowl MVP 1978. Carter B. Garrett.
Oh, my darn.
Brian, look at that.
That's pretty cool.
Look at that. Legend. Legendary right here.
That's right. Well, it is something to be proud of.
It is.
You know, we had, I played Little League football, and it's things we went undefeated, and it was a rare thing because usually you had rivals of Zappomattox and Amherst, and
Yeah.
at least once you would lose one, but we had one season that we went undefeated, and it's something I've remembered for the rest of my life because those guys went on to win the state championship later on. I wasn't at Rustburg when that happened, but they went on to win the state championship. So
Now, wait, did you say undefeated season?
yes. Wait a minute, we have
He's reaching into his prop bag.
We have another
Look,
prop.
He's got another trophy. Wait, okay, all right. Look at this. Okay, This one says Carter Garrett, 1973 Roadrunners undefeated season.
Well, there you go.
Look at this. Look, man. Look, we need a bigger table for all these trophies right here.
Now, the undefeated season is a little bit misleading because we went the entire year without giving up a point.
Oh, wow.
Man.
It was undefeated and unscored on.
Holy cow.
And the closest that we came, we were playing the Falcons. And because, I mean, we had a bunch of teams. Well, to go back a little bit, the Bedford Bruins were the black team. And so they broke up that dynasty somewhere before I started playing. And the black players were all integrated with the white players. And that year, 73, was my first year. So I didn't play a whole lot during the first 3 quarters. But we were usually winning so much that I'd get in there and get to carry the ball a few times in the late in the game.
Now, say, before I get to my last question, is there any more props in the bag?
Just for those listening, it's like a big grocery tote bag. Like he's got a bag full of props he brought in. This is amazing. 2 bags, mind you.
And the closest game we had was we were playing the Falcons. And it was early in the 4th quarter. Robbie Catron of Catron's Tire Service, he intercepted a ball, took it back, pick 6, and we preserved the victory 6-0, and ended up not giving up a point or losing the game.
Wow.
See, that's pretty. That's good. That's
good.
awesome.
Now here's the best part about the show. So if people listen to this show, like, Catron, then all of a sudden, you start to hear this go around town. Of, hey, you should have seen that season. It was pretty
It's legendary.
So I can't wait to hear some of the stories. And again, if people would email the show, we can talk about that next week because I'm curious, if we get some people emailing about that.
That remember the Carter Garrett undefeated and the blockout that you did on the other ones, and share some stories about Carter that when you played with him. So that's amazing.
That's right. Yeah. All right. So I'm gonna end this with my last question to you, Carter. I always ask people this because I'm curious. If you could choose one person that you wanted to meet and then spend a day with them, who would it be, and where would you end up going with them?
Well, it would be Keith Richards.
Oh, wow.
And I would go to his home in Jamaica, and I would make sure that I ate some of his mother's recipe, shepherd's pie, drink some Red Stripes with him, ask him about the 70s, which would be a very short conversation because I don't reckon that he's going to recollect much of that.
No.
But then I'd play a little music with him, get him strumming his guitar, and I'd blow my harp, and then I'd see if I could get him bitching about Mick at all.
Hey, that sounds like a great day to me.
Man, that's awesome, Keith Richards. That's a great answer to that question. Yeah.
Now the real question is: are you bringing your bag with you to show him all your trophies? Or you just?
I think you have to, Carter. I think you need to.
I think Keith Richards will want to know.
I think y'all could talk about stories like that.
He understands football to be a round white ball, so I'm not sure that it's going to translate
probably
from
not.
American English to British English. All that accurate.
Not. Oh, that's awesome.
Well, it certainly was a pleasure to have you in, Carter. We'll have you in the future. Again, thank you and appreciate you being on the show. All right, next segment. Nobody knows. This is a segment that each week I'm going to try to find something that may be somewhat of a secret within the town that people may not know about.
Ooh.
And so I thought the first one would be a lot of things around town you may notice are named Liberty.
Mm-hmm.
So here's a fun fact that you may not know. Liberty this is what Bedford was known before it became Bedford. It was called Liberty.
Really?
Yep. So the town was established in 1782, and it was known as Liberty, and it covered the area approximately, it was 100 acres, somewhere to that fact. So it was the county seat of Bedford. The county seat of Bedford used to be New London.
Huh, okay.
Yep. So it moved here, and it was called Liberty. Liberty was incorporated into a town by the Act of the General Assembly in 1839. Then a fire came through town and destroyed like 90% of the town because it was wood buildings back then. So it was rebuilt with the brick structures you see now.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that I found very interesting when I was doing my research, which in the future kind of leads to a future guest we'll have on, is Betty Giroux. Betty is with the Historical Society.
Okay.
She'll be a great guest in the future. So Betty, if you're listening, I will be contacting you soon. But so if I get any of this stuff wrong, she will be the first one to correct me. That is correct. But a fire happened in 1880. And so not only restoring the buildings, they wanted to expand. So at the time, you had a formation of colleges or schools. So Belmont Seminary, Jeter Institute, Randolph-Macon Academy, and Virginia Business College. All were here at one time.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So, if you're driving around town, you go Jeter Street. That's where the Jeter Institute used to be. Randolph-Macon used to be over near the primary school.
Yeah.
Right over there.
Yeah.
So, anyway, so you had an influx of teachers and things like that. So they started this development at the time, and I believe it was Liberty Land Corporation. So actually, one of the first houses built by the Liberty Land Corporation was land that was donated by the Avenel, which is right out in front of the Avenel, which is exactly where I live. And it was the first house built, and it was built in 1886. So, yes, I have a very old house.
What? That is... Oh, yeah, I love old houses.
Yes.
That's interesting.
So, anyway, and that's kind of how Longwood Avenue developed. It just kept growing out that way. So that's... If it wasn't for the fire, who knows if any of that stuff would have happened.
So this used to be called Liberty, and then it had, 3 or 4 colleges? I mean, that is... Yeah, that's a completely different kind of landscape than what it is...
Correct.
Than what it is now.
Oh, man. Yeah. And so... It was known as Liberty up until, I believe it was 1886 is when it became, it was known as Bedford.
Up until when?
I believe it was in the 1880s.
1880s.
Is when it became Bedford. But again, we need some feedback to make sure that's correct. But anyway, it became, it was known as the... Yes, that's right. Yep, 1880s, it became known as Bedford City.
Okay.
And it was known as that, even though it was still incorporated as a town.
Yeah.
It was called Bedford City. And then in 1968, the name was changed to the city of Bedford, and it became an actual independent city.
Okay.
And that happened in 1968. And, of course, the reversion happened in 2013, which took it back to a town.
Went to a town.
And that's why it's called... the Town of Bedford.
Now, see, that's what I think. It took me a little bit because is always the city of Bedford. So
Correct.
And then like you said, more recently, Town of Bedford, and then you still see some of the city remnants. Right. And some people that don't come here very often still call it the city of Bedford. But that's interesting. Yeah, Liberty. I like that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and so it's sort of the fabric of our history, right? And believe it or not, you still have people ask, like, you have Liberty High School.
Yeah.
Right? And that's where this comes from.
Yeah.
So we did a thing with the town where we were doing rebranding. And it's what's part of our life, Liberty Happiness.
That's right.
That's our motto with the town. And so we actually had a group say, don't we want to separate ourselves from Liberty University? And I'm like, well, hold on a minute.
They don't own the word.
Liberty has been a fabric of who we are since its existence.
Yeah.
So I don't look at it as a negative. Liberty University came along in the 70s, 1973, I believe.
Yeah.
So, no, we're not going to change our history in order to.
No, gosh, no.
And we embrace that, and it's fine. So anyway, that's our little segment in case people didn't know why certain things are called Liberty.
Nobody knows.
That's right. So next thing is business highlights. So each week I'd like to highlight just a business. Just pick a business, highlight them, let people know they're here, and, so people can take advantage of our small businesses here in town. This week I chose Fisher's Restaurant. It's located on 503 4th Street. They have a Facebook page. They update it regularly. They're closed on Monday, Tuesday through Friday. They're open from 6:30 a.m. till 3, Saturday till 2, and this is important, Sunday they have a brunch from 9 till 2.
Let's see. All right, I have to admit, I haven't been there yet. However, I have heard they're pretty awesome. Like,
They are.
everybody has said, you got to go there. And it's like this little brick kind of, not in a hole in wall, but just a little building kind of.
Looks great.
Small town. Everything about a small town. This place just oozes it.
Yep.
I need to get there.
Lisa owns Lisa Saunders, which a lot of people who live in Bedford know Lisa and Donnie. But my wife and I went there Saturday, and there was a couple from Roanoke there was a gentleman from Bedford that was sitting there eating with his family, and he said that it was the first time he'd ever been there.
Yeah.
And she said, "Oh, really? My husband and I are from Roanoke, and we come down here once a week because it's such a great place to eat." And so that just tells you. I mean, it's a great place. And then as we were leaving, Jerry Falwell and his wife came in.
Oh, yeah.
So I just think, a lot of people from all over come to Fisher's.
Now, if you have to recommend, all right, so you've been there. What if for a first timer, what would you recommend getting? Like, what's like the dish that you know?
Oh, good Lord! I have their chicken salad because it's freshly made.
Yeah, there's
it's
not
great.
a good chicken salad. Okay.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I would definitely recommend that. So that wraps up our business highlight. Every week we'll highlight a business in Bedford. So stay tuned to the next episode when we have another business to highlight.
Right.
Our next segment's called Cool Club. So as the show grows and we start to get feedback, each week we'll read some of the feedback that we get.
Yep.
So we did have some feedback, and I'm going to read some of it. And then as the show becomes more popular and people start to criticize, we can decide who we want to keep in the Cool Club and who we're going to kick out.
Going to kick out. Yeah.
So this week, our first one that I got is from Christy. And Christy says, people are always complaining that their electric bills have increased. I think you guys should have someone from the electric department that can come in and give tips on things to check that will allow you to have a more economical electric bill. Space heaters, heat pump maintenance, things like that.
Yeah.
So I
a good
think that's
idea,
a great
Christy.
idea. Christy,
Great idea.
you will make it into the Cool Club.
Well done, Christy. Cool
it'll
Club.
At least last a week. So we'll
Yes.
see what you
It's
say.
a 1 week rotation.
That's right. All right. The next thing is, this is from Diane Erb. She says, you touched on something that I would love to hear more on, and that is the subject of communication. You said that people come to and didn't even know your business was there. This was when I was talking about Liberty Landscape being here.
Yeah.
That's a continuous problem. We get contacted that they didn't know about events, things like that, things happening in Bedford. For us, we have many different Facebook pages, one specifically for events or organizations, etc. I tag Facebook pages, Town Welcome Center, etc. post so people can see even more. For those who don't have social media, we advertise in Roanoke, Lynchburg channels, multimedia radio stations, Bedford Bulletin, News in Advance. If people are still not receiving information in Bedford, what other outlets can people do a better job of getting their information out?
I loved this email, by the way.
Yeah.
This is right up my alley.
Correct. You're in communications,
Yes,
obviously. So, Diane, I will say, one, it's a good email, and you will make it into the Cool Club.
Mm-hmm.
But two, it is something that I have tried to figure out myself. And it's the reason we started the podcast was to get as much information as we could get out. So I think it's just one of those things where you just have to keep trying. And I don't have if I had the answer, I promise you, I would have told. It's not a secret. So.
No, the funny thing about this particular question is, and she's right. Like, you've got Bedford. There's no lack of Facebook pages and groups and stuff like that. But what I think is important is that, again, and we talked about it the last time, Bedford's in that in-between.
Yes.
Right? So you do have Lynchburg outlets, you know, not that everybody watches local news, but you do have those Lynchburg-only stations, news stations, and news in advance publications.
Yep.
Then you got Roanoke. Well, if the story's big enough, Bedford gets coverage. But there's nothing like when you go to the newsstand, you know, or watch TV, there's just so much. And you know, you need that hub. You need that, you know, constant flow of just, well, this is the town news. And you have several outlets out there. But I think that's one of the things that, from my point as a communication person coming in, is that's why we're doing like Centertown TV. Like we're doing these things where, and like you said, this podcast, that's another great thing. So like we're forming like the Bedford's own content hub. Like we're even making a Roku channel where they can watch the live streams, the town council meetings, and you really don't have to worry about, you know, when you go to like the beach, you go to Manio or something, you turn on their TV station.
Local TV,
It's nothing but local. That's it. It shows you the museums to go to, the tourist attractions, the restaurants, and you don't have to worry about anything else.
Yep.
And I think that's one of the things that I was so excited to dive into here is that Bedford doesn't have that.
Right.
You know, like we were talking about the radio station before. Like Bedford doesn't have like its own identity for like sport and stuff like that. And I think she touched on something much bigger that I hope that we're gonna start scratching the surface on. So yeah, that's an awesome email. So and yeah, makes me want to speed up some of the things I'm working on. So there you go.
All right, last but not least, this is from a Sandy Bennett. She said, I listened to your podcast with Brian Sly, and I thought it was fantastic. Now, I did not write this. I promise you, this is written.
Are you paying Sandy?
No, I don't.
There we go.
Unfortunately, I do not live inside the town limits. But I just wanted to say that I thought it was great and very informative. I will definitely recommend to anyone I know living inside the town limits to listen. Keep up the good work.
There we go.
So obviously, Sandy, you have made it into the cool club.
Yeah, Sandy, Sandy's on the top of the list.
Yes, we will put you at the very top, and you may automatically go 2 weeks.
That's right. She's team captain right now.
That's right. So anyway, that wraps up our show. I hope everybody enjoyed it. Again, thank you to Carter Garrett for being our first guest. I think he was entertaining. And so, Woody, if you have anything.
No, I just want people to visit the website, Facebook page, like the Facebook page. It's so hard. I know you probably get 1,000 invites in your inbox a day, everybody. But I promise you, like, this is where we're going to post the episodes. It's a great way to leave comments, you know. And again, if you have some emails, some feedback, positive, negative, Life, Liberty, Happiness Podcast at gmail.com or visit the site lifeliberty.us.
Perfect. See you next week.
All right.